Hi everyone, welcome to my channel again. Last time in my last video we were looking at how to draw a portrait. Well, we're going to look today at how to shade that portrait. Shading will add a little bit more realism to your work. It will make it look more three-dimensional and help to bring the form to life. For this you're going to need a pencil. I'm still using my 4B pencil here. I find that's a nice medium range one, but you might want to use a 6B if you want to go very dark. Or if you're new to this, it might be best for you to start off with a 2B. I've got an eraser. I've also got a 6B pencil here with me as well, in case I feel like going to some darker shades. And I'm using, if you have a set of drawing pencils, you'll find that there's something that comes in it that's called a stump. It's basically a piece of paper that's wound really tightly. So what I'm going to use in place of that is just some tissue paper. I fold it a number of times and then fold it into a triangle and just wrap it round, and this gives me a nice little point that I can work with. And what we use that for is to smooth out and blend out some of your tones. What some of my students do is they get their fingers in there and start to smudge it, and I don't particularly like smudging because the sweat, the oil in your skin just makes your work look dirty. You get fingerprints all over it. Another thing that you might find handy to have is just a piece of paper. I've got a paper towel here, but it can be a piece of printer paper, anything, so that as you're starting to shade, you can rest your hand on that so that you don't mess up your work as you go along. Alright, so for my work, I'm starting with my 4B pencil. I've got a decent point on it, and I'm going to start on the eyes. Now, looking at this drawing, I realized the eyes are a little bit too high. I maybe should have brought them down a bit lower. I did say in the last video that your eyes are halfway down your head. And looking at this, I'm realizing that it is a little bit above half. But I'm going to leave it because what we'll do is just extend the hair at the top and balance that out. Alright, so the first thing we need to think about is your lighting. I'm going to be shading this as if the light is shining right on the front of her face, not coming from the left or the right. I'm going to do some reflections in the eye, and so I'm going to just do a tiny little window. I'm doing them on the right side even though your light is coming in front of you, and what that will give me is a little space that I can work around. Now, to shade the iris, you can work back and forth from the edge to the center like that if you wish, but I'm more comfortable working around the edges, so I tend to do this back and forth motion to begin with because it kind of gives you the pattern that's in the eye. I'm just going to work on one eye first, and then I swap over to holding my pencil on a side, so I'm getting the side of my pencil mark. That will give you a wider mark because you're using the point of your pencil all the way up to where it disappears into the wood, so you get a much wider, softer mark. And I'm able to just work around that, starting at the edge of the iris and just going around. Now the outer edge of your iris is slightly darker, and that doesn't matter if you have dark brown eyes, hazel, blue, green, it doesn't matter. The edge of your eye is slightly darker. Now I'm changing to working in a circular kind of burnishing manner, so I'm doing tiny little circles just because that's more what I'm comfortable with. I'm not pressing on my pencil at all. All I'm doing right here is just rubbing it and rubbing it, and the more you rub it, the darker it will get around the outer edge, and you can still see some of those slight marks that I made going back and forth. I've left that white spot out. I'm still shading up right up until where the eyelid is, but I've left that white spot out so it looks as if there is a reflection. I can then go to the pupil, and this is where I'm going to start to press now using the point of my pencil. I'm not doing the full circle. I'm going to leave a tiny little speck of white on one side so that we get a reflection on that as well. I'm going to see if I can just bring that in. Now, you know what, I'm not going to move my camera. I'm going to bring my book up so you can get a closer look at that eye. So there's a tiny little reflection of light in the pupil as well as in the iris. Alright, I'm going to move to the next eye, and do the same thing. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm gonna start looking at the space around the eyes. Now if you think about the skull, the eyes are in a hole, they're in a socket, so that naturally causes this area to be shaded. So we've got a shadow there, so I'm going to be doing a slight shadow on the inside of the eye here, keeping my eyelid line darker. I'm leaving it light in the middle, and then I'm going back to the outer edge where I'm doing a slightly darker line. Now if you think about the way that we do makeup, we wear eyeshadow over our eyes. So now I'm going back to this pencil on the side, using a circular motion. And really our makeup should accentuate or make up what we already have. So we basically have a shadow above our eyes, and that's what we're doing with our makeup. We're accentuating that shadow, we're making it darker. I'm not shading everything, I'm leaving it slightly lighter in the middle. That will help to get that rounded look to the eyelid. And I'm going to carry this shadow, the shaded area, down the side of the nose out to where the bottom of the nose was. Right, now it looks a bit stark at the moment, but we'll blend it in as we go along. There's a little bit of this shadow that will go under the eye, but we don't want to do it too much under the eye because it will look like she's got a black eye. I'm just muting my phone over here, just don't want that to ring and disturb my video. Turning that off. There we go. Sorry about that, guys. Alright, so I'm going to go to the other eye and I'm going to do the same thing. I'm trying not to move my book. I would naturally turn my book towards my right hand because I am right-handed, so I'm trying to work right now without turning my book too much. Slightly darker shadow on this side. And if you go back and forth, you'll find that you'll do exactly what I just did there, where you've got a line where your shadow stops. I don't want your shadow to stop at a line, you want it to blend out. So it's best to work in a circular motion where you can move that around and blend it out. We're going to carry that under the eyes a little bit. Right now she looks a little bit raccoon-eyed, I know, but we will work on it, we will blend it out. And I'm going to continue bringing that down the side of the nose. Right, so before we go any further, I don't want to lose that lovely detail that we had around the eyes, so I'm going to come back in and add in back her eyelashes. If they're too pale, want to darken those back in, make sure we can see the eyelid. On the bottom, or the corner of the eye I should say, there's a little membrane that goes there, and that will be slightly shaded as well. And as your eye comes around, if you look really closely at an eye, you'll begin to see that you get a slight double line right at the edges. I'm just going to move around. Trying to move around a camera is not easy to draw around a camera. Alright, so we've got this slightly raccoon-eyed lady at the moment. I'll just show you what I do with the paper. Normally I would start to get all my shading in, but I just want to show you how this works. So I'm using the paper, I'm not using my finger, I'm working on the paper. And I'm starting to smudge out into what I want to be lighter, softer areas. Right, as we continue to shade, we'll continue to smooth her out. So I'm going to work around her nose, just get into that shape. It's easier for me to hold my pencil this way right now. Under the nostrils will be quite dark, so I'll press at that point. I'm gonna have to turn that. Sorry, it's not working for me holding it in that direction. Sorry about you seeing this sideways. You should have a little bit of a shadow underneath your nose. We don't want her to look like Hitler, but there will be a little shadow there. And then the shadow starts to come up along the side of the face. And this is going to blend in with what you had around the nose and curve around to start to form the cheeks. So I'm going to do the same on this side. Right, I'm coming in under your lips, get a little curved line going downwards, which helps to create the shape of the chin. And so I'm going to work from that curve, going up the side of the cheeks. I know she looks like she has a beard at the moment. Don't worry, it will work out. Now, I want to get rid of the outline on the side of my drawing. I don't want that to be showing. So I'm working a little bit more around the edge of the drawing. And I'm going to carry that in right around the edge of her face right there. I'm purposely leaving out those cheek areas because those will be the lighter spots on your face. We have what we call a T-zone, and those of you who do makeup will know that the lightest part on your forehead straight across, straight down the nose, we're going to have a light spot on your chin and your cheeks as well. So that's basically what we're working around. So I'm going to do a bit of a shadow on the side. I'm just ignoring the hair at the moment. We'll come back in and do that on top. Might even change your hairstyle. Working around her hairline that we drew in the last time. Right, now if you use your pencil on the side, use it lightly. If you do make a mistake, you feel like there's something that's too dark, you can always take a nice clean rubber. To be honest, I clean my rubber on my clothes. Just rub it off, and I find doing a little twisting motion like that with my rubber helps me to not rub out a white patch. So if you do feel that you've gone too dark anywhere, you can always lighten it up a little bit. I'm going to bring this in slightly darker around the side of the eyes here. So that I'm working out, I'm getting rid of that outline around the edge. Right, I'm going to go back to my blending tool right now and start to soften some of this, and you'll see that she doesn't look so much like she's got a beard anymore. Let's turn that a bit so you can see what we're doing. But we're now starting to get some softer tones coming in. This blending stump really helps to soften those tones out. And so that's the basic of it. Of course, you can go back in and start to add in a few more details. I don't want to put my hand across the drawing and mess it up, so I'm going to put my paper there. I'm still seeing an outline here. I want to work that in a little bit more, so I'm going to darken that part. I'm also going to start working into the ear, which might get covered by some of our hair anyway, so I'm not too fussed about shading a lot of the ear at the moment. I might draw the hair around that. It's just starting to get in some basic shading around the ears as well. Now let's give her a little bit more attention at the bottom here, bringing some slightly darker shadows around the side of the mouth. Looking at the mouth now, the very tip, the very corner of your mouth can be quite dark. We tend to have little areas of light here where these lines have curved up. That is where the mouth has bumps and raised sections on it. So I'm going to be shading across. I'm doing almost hatching lines at the moment, making this quite dark. I can pull her mouth out a little bit more into a point, and I'm making that quite dark and flicking, almost flicking motions. So I'm going to keep the center of that lip a little bit lighter. Then I'm going to go underneath here and start to, in the top lip you'll have the light in the Right, I'm not sure what happened there, but my camera just decided to shut off partway through. I finished off the lips. As I was saying, there's light on the middle of the top lip and a little bit of light on the two sides of the bottom lip, and then you can start to create a little bit of a shadow underneath the mouth as well. I'm going to work a bit more on the nose. Looking back at the nose, I realize it looks a bit plain, so I tend to do a little bit of a shadow around this area, and that's maybe because on my nose I have a little round bubbly bit there. So you know, we all tend to draw ourselves. This doesn't exactly look like me, but we tend to put elements of ourselves in it, in our work. I'm just going to have a little bit of a shadow there. I don't want the nose to be completely white. It is very light at the moment. So I'm just adding a few pencil marks that I can then come in and start to blend out. I think I've got a little bit of a stark shadow around the nose that I'd like to work out a little bit more. Let's try and carry that out a bit more. I don't want it looking like an animal. Alright, we'll see if we can keep working into that as we go along. Alright, so I'm jumping now to the bit under her neck here. I was going very dark right under the head because the head would be casting a shadow onto your neck. Right, so this will be very dark up under here and right up into the point. Just changing the angle of my pencil so I can get into those pointed areas a bit better. Just go back for my paper across my drawing. And I can get into those cornered areas a little bit more. Alright, so we're going to carry this shadow. This is now the shadow of the head. And there's an expression that practice makes perfect. If it doesn't make you perfect, it definitely makes you a lot better. So keep practicing. If you can get somebody to sit for you, that'll be fantastic. If you can't, we can't always get somebody to sit and pose for us. Sometimes we can draw a family in the evenings when they're watching TV or something, but if you can't, then work from pictures, work from photographs. There are some people who don't like that idea and believe that you should only draw from life. I don't stick strictly to that. I think anywhere you can get practice would help. And a lot of artists out there draw from photographs. Most of my portrait drawings are from photographs. Somewhere in the neck, just around this region down here, there's a little dip. So we tend to have a slight shadow in that area. Don't want to make it too stark. And I'm basically just going to kind of fade this out. I'm not going to do a whole heap of detail down here in the shoulder region. I'm going to be fading that out as I go along. This is almost a triangular shape little area, and as I said, I'm shading this as if your light source is directly in front of you, so my neck will be darker on the sides and then coming down. And I'm going to go back to my blending stump, and what I'm doing now is I'm actually using the graphite that is already on my paper and just smoothing that out. And anywhere where I can see the outline showing, I'm working that in. I don't want to see the outline, I want the shadows to become part of the outline. Alright, so her chin is a little bit messy here. We've got a lot of pencil marks. I'm going to clean that up. And then let's see if we can bring the shadow of her face around on that chin area a little bit, just at the very bottom. Still want to distinguish her head from her neck, so don't want to lose that darker shadow underneath there. Alright, so she's looking pretty good to me. Her cheeks are standing out as very white. So I'm going to put a little bit of graphite on them, just a few pencil marks. I am barely touching the paper at this point. Same thing on her chin and the same thing across on her forehead. I don't want it to be totally white. They are lighter areas, but anything that is left totally white will look unfinished. And then I'm going to go into working those in. Alright, so we're pretty much done with what I'd want to do with the face. Alright, we've got her looking a little bit more human. And now we're just going to go into the hair. Alright, so I've got some few lines here that I did last week. I'm going to just work with that for the sake of time. So I'm going to give her a fringe or a bangs, if you want to call it that. I'm looking at where the hairline was, and I'm working from this area, and I'm now going to fill it in, curving. Should we do them longer? Yeah, that's a bit short, isn't it? Let's carry it out over her eyes. Some girls like to have the bangs coming down right over the eyebrows. We can also make it go a little bit wider, so it's filling out the head, the forehead. I'm going to have to turn my book at this point because I can't quite get the angle. I want to keep that on a curve. And then I'm going to go and fill in the hair with the same motion. So I've given her a parting on this right hand side. And I did say I'd carry the hair up a little bit because my eyes had started out a bit too high. So I'm going to carry that right over. I'm still using the side of my pencil at this point in time, but I would actually work back into this with my point of my pencil and giving a kind of a flicked out hairstyle. So she has straight hair, and might even do other little areas that are flicking out a little bit more, as if she's brushed or curled the ends. Got lots of other drawings that I've done with curly hair, and to be honest, once you get to this point you can do the hair in whatever style you like. And then we do the same on this side. So right now I'm still using the side of my pencil, trying to replicate what I did on the other side. And once again I have to turn my book almost upside down to be able to get that curve on this side of her head. Alright, so the hair looks pretty flat there, and to make this really look good, you'd want to go in and look at where the light is shining on her hair. I'm afraid my battery is dying, so I'm going to stop on that because I think that gives you a pretty good idea of how to shade it. But obviously there'll be areas where light is hitting her hair, and I would go in and finish this off now with using the point of my pencil. Let's just cover that up so I don't get it all smudged, and start to do really dense hatching lines now at this point in time, working in this direction and then actually working back on that direction and working back and forth so I don't get actual lines showing where the lines end or anything. And that would start to give you an area there where light is showing on her hair. Of course you could use your eraser. You could bring areas of her hair down over the ears and so on. Alright, but I'm going to leave that now. My battery's dying and I don't want the video to just end. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope that has helped you. Of course you can do any hairstyle on this. As I said on other videos, I've been doing portrait drawing with classes all week, and I've had others where I've started to do curly hair. That's the one I showed you the other day. I realized that eye is off. I need to fix that. And one here where we've been doing her hair up in a bun on the top of her head. So once you've got the basics, you can add whatever you like to it. I hope you liked the video. Give me a thumbs up. Please subscribe and look out for more videos. Thank you. Thanks for your time. Bye.